had up on the screen today, but let me just tell you which one it is. 6048. 6048.
Test, test, 1, 2. Test, test, 1, 2. Test, 1, 2. Test, 1, 2. Test, 1, 2.
our board meeting tonight, and we will begin by having the Pledge of Allegiance by David Stevenson and then a reverence by Tamara O'Born.
Please stand and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I looked up my favorite quote really quickly. It's by Teddy Roosevelt, and it says, "It's not the critic who counts, it's not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who actually is in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms and great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, and at the best knows in the end of the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." And I love that for a meeting like this, because I know you are all very much in the arena, and thank you for what you do. And everyone in this room that takes the time to come to a meeting like this is invested. And if we treat each other like we're doing our best, we're going to have the best outcomes.
Thank you very much. By the way, that's my favorite quote that I say to I actually memorized it, and I say it to my kids when I'm getting them to weed. And so they don't always like it. It has bad memories associated with it, but there you go. So thank you. We're honoring Mount Mahogany Elementary School today, and we're grateful to have our principal, Jeff Shirley, with us. And we will go ahead and let you proceed with your presentation about the school. Thank you for being here with us.
Thanks for this opportunity, and thanks, Board, for everything that you do for our school and our community. We appreciate your service. And in my 4 years at Mount Mahogany, I've really grown to love the community, and we have awesome students. We've got amazing parents, and the teachers and staff are among the best in the district. We really appreciate all that they do, and it was really hard to just choose a few students and staff, but I want to take an opportunity right now to celebrate the efforts of these amazing people, because we really appreciate all that they do for us. So first, to our students, correct? All right. Kindergarten, we have Charlotte Bowman. Charlotte is an all-around amazing student. She excels at making friends and is an eager learner. She is always working hard and tries extremely hard to do anything that is asked of her. She is a teacher's dream student, and her example is admired by everyone in the class. Great job, Charlotte. Next is Brielle Springer in first grade. Brielle is such a happy, friendly, and pleasant girl. Earlier this school year, and you'll actually see her cast in the picture there, she fell while running at recess, broke her arm in several places. Despite this significant injury, she remained calm and exuded a tremendous amount of strength as she waited patiently in the nurse's office for her parent to come. I was blown away that she was barely crying, just the amount of pain tolerance that she had. When she returned to school with a brace and eventually a cast, she never complained about having to use her left hand instead of her dominant right hand. Through a diligence and steadfastness, she's now become one of the best handwriters in first grade, and all with her left hand. Brielle is the definition of conquering whatever challenges she faces with a great attitude and tremendous conviction and determination. So great job, Brielle. Second grade, Kezia Burton. Kezia consistently represents an amazing example of someone who works hard, tries her best, and is kind to everyone. Through this incredible diligence and hard work, she consistently is one of the top performing students in her class. We love Kezia's great attitude, smile, and the tremendous example that she shows daily. Great job, Kezia. Third grade, Michael Figuera. Michael is an outstanding student. He works hard to learn new concepts and doesn't give up. He's kind and patient with others in the classroom and on the playground. He's always willing to lend a helping hand to his teacher and classmates. He is dependable and includes others and is quick with a smile for everyone. Awesome job, Michael. 4th grade, Libby Jones. Libby is a wonderful student who always works hard in school and shows up each day with an amazing spirit and energy. Despite some unique challenges she faces, she never stops smiling. She treats everyone with kindness and love. In the classroom, she's focused, works hard on her assignments, believes in herself, and never gives up. Through her hard work and determination, she has just shown tremendous progress and growth. She is amazing. Awesome job, Libby. 5th grade, Joaquin Mena Enriquez. Joaquin is always willing to serve and help his classmates. He is kind to everyone and never misses an opportunity to serve in his classroom, and often does kind acts of service without being asked. He asks great questions and diligently completes whatever task is given to him. Overall, he is extremely kind to everyone and is a tremendous example to his classmates of the characteristics it takes to be an amazing student each day. Way to go, Joaquin. And in 6th grade, Annika Beckner. Annika is an amazing example of perseverance and determination. She has made tremendous growth through challenges she has faced the past few years and has shown through her hard work and strong conviction that she can accomplish great things no matter what life throws her way. Annika's awesome strides and efforts to become what she is today is admired by everyone who knows her. Those are just a few examples of the amazing students we have at Mount Mahogany. Can we give them a hand, everybody? What a great treat to recognize those students, so thank you.
Thank you. So you can just keep going. I
Okay.
think you have a principal's report and anything else.
Yes, I'd like to recognize some support professionals, teachers, and volunteers. Is that okay? Do that right now? All right. Okay, there they are. Okay, well, I'd like to recognize first Chanel Jarrett. She's my right-hand person here in the office, and she's a lead secretary and leads our school in a lot of different ways. So you can't help but notice the outstanding job that Chanel does each day and has done at Mount Mahogany. Each day, she's asked to fill in many roles in our front office, and it's admirable that she never hesitates in her willingness to be flexible for the betterment of our staff. Never once have I heard any complaints come from her, as she can always be counted on to give her best effort to assist in whatever duties are asked of her. You'd be hard spent to find anyone in the building who could find a single negative thing to say about her. She's a tremendous example of a positive team player, as she often has shown tremendous patience in her ability to problem solve no matter what challenge she faces. It's refreshing to see such a great attitude, and Chanel deserves this recognition for her outstanding example, kindness, and sacrifices that she has made that help make Mount Mahogany a better place because of her efforts. So thank you, Chanel. Next, Janet Taylor, one of our aides. Janet's amazing. There's not enough words to describe the tremendous efforts of sacrifice that Janet has shown each day at Mount Mahogany. She's extremely diligent in her duties as an aide, and her countless efforts to assist our students are immeasurable. Despite the personal challenges she has faced this year and over the past few years, she has never wavered in her commitment to serve the students in her class. All those who work with Janet have come to admire her strengths as an educator and a person. Her unique ability to connect to her students as she works with them closely to meet their individual needs is admirable and appreciated. Janet's commitment to and her steadfast patience and love to her students is immeasurable. She's gone above and beyond the duties of an aide, and her tremendous service to her students will always be remembered. Thank you, Janet. Next is Rachel Ferguson, one of our special education teachers. Extraordinary, impactful teachers are sometimes hard to come by, and we're fortunate at Mount Mahogany to have one of the best in Rachel Ferguson. She has a unique ability to overcome any challenge presented to her with an unrelenting will and drive. Her strong character and moral conviction provide strength to those around her. She works tirelessly in meeting the academic and behavioral needs of her students daily. Her ability to know how to relate to each student is just one of the things that makes Rachel so special. She's very conscientious and creative and goes the extra mile to reach each learner. During her time at Mount Mahogany, she has volunteered countless hours to coordinate not one, not two, but several after-school clubs and programs to enhance the learning experience of our students. She's a steadfast, conscientious leader, and we're fortunate to have her at Mount Mahogany. Thanks, Rachel. Next, we have Chelsea Hales, a special education teacher. And we are also incredibly fortunate to have Chelsea on our staff so the students can benefit from her instinctive and creative ability to impact and inspire others. She exudes a quiet dignity and exemplifies countless characteristics that benefit our school daily. Her patience, caring guidance, and example of perseverance has not only benefited her students, but also her team and many others on our staff. It's an incredible honor to recognize Chelsea for her outstanding initiative, her calm, kind, and caring demeanor, and her ability to establish such an engaging, inspiring learning environment where her students show incredible gains in achievement each year. Chelsea is truly a shining example of how teaching can change the lives of our precious students. Thanks, Chelsea. Now for some volunteers which have helped out the school in amazing ways. First, Maria Ferguson. Mount Mahogany is fortunate to have numerous parent volunteers, but someone who stands out for exceptional service is Maria Ferguson. Maria has been a stalwart volunteer assisting with events on our PTA, but most notably in our book room. She is spotted daily in our school, spending countless hours helping change out and organize the take-home books that go home each day to our lower grade students. She serves with a smile and exudes care and love for all of our students through her tremendous service. We're so fortunate to have such an amazing parent volunteer. Thank you, Maria. Next, one of our great partners at doTERRA, Rachel Benfield. And we'd be remiss not to mention all the outstanding efforts that she's helped coordinate. She contributes an extraordinary amount of effort in assisting our school in countless ways, ranging from donating books and supplies to our classrooms, to coordinating volunteers to come in and read to our students, and inviting us to use some of their facilities sometimes for our school leadership team to have off-site conferences. Her willingness to serve Mount Mahogany with a smile is commendable and greatly appreciated. She has brought tremendous joy and impact to all who have benefited from the donations she has coordinated over the years. Thank you, Rachel, for your tremendous example of service, kindness, and compassion. And let's hear it for those individuals, everybody. It's awesome to recognize them. And I'm pleased right now to give a report on the school. School board, you want the 10-minute version, the 5-minute version, or the hour version?
I think we can do without the hour version, but I'll let you decide on the other two.
Okay. I just want to take just a few minutes. I could talk a lot about how great Mount Mahogany is. I love it there. It's a school that is close to my home in Cedar Hills, and I just love interacting with the community and the students each day is a treat to be there. So historically, just an overview of Mount Mahogany. In 2000, it was established as the 5th elementary school built in Pleasant Grove. We celebrated our 20th anniversary just last year. Each year, we embrace a group of students and their families within our care with a determination to make the coming year the best possible experience for our students. Our mission statement is to provide positive, safe, and impactful learning experiences for all students. This mission statement drives our collective, collaborative decision-making and improving student learning, which is the core of everything that we do. Our vision statement is to ensure that students develop the knowledge, skills, and dispositions they need to be successful lifelong learners and productive members of society. We accomplish this through the support of our school family, consisting of faculty, staff, parents, students, and community members, focusing on collective commitments. As RAMs, we are respectful, accountable, motivated, and strong. As a school community, we strive to do the following: provide a safe and enjoyable environment for all, have a positive attitude, treat others with kindness, be clear and consistent in our communication, collaborate effectively through positive contributions, share responsibilities, focus our efforts on essential standards, meet the learning needs of all students, be data-driven, and we celebrate successes. Mount Mahogany has been recognized on numerous television outlets and news stations to celebrate our efforts to promote, foster, and embrace the Choose Kindness program, sponsored by the Jimmer Fredette Foundation, along with our friends at doTERRA and other local sponsors. Jimmer came to our school a couple weeks ago. I showed him a few things, and I think he learned from me when he was there, when he takes it back to China. Actually, he showed all of us some of his skills. I think he made like 23 pointers at one point in a row. But getting the kids hyped for him was, I wanted to recognize, or them to recognize how important it was for him to visit, how big he was just a short time ago, 10 years ago. So we sent out a hype video, and some of the kids were actually cheering in the classroom as he was scoring on this hype video. And it was awesome, so much energy the day he came. But the purpose that he came was what was important, to echo the things that we're talking about with choosing kindness. And it was awesome that he took time out of his schedule to visit not only our school, but all of the Pleasant Grove schools as part of the Choose Kindness initiative. So we appreciated his time, and all of the sponsors of the Kindness program, doTERRA, the Jimmer Fredette Foundation, as I mentioned. And together we collectively work to improve the educational experience in the school environment for every child. And we frequently remind them of how important it is to choose kindness in what they do and say. Our school consistently works to improve and increase the safety of our students and staff. The measures we have worked on with the help of the district throughout the past 4 years have included, with your help, we appreciate the secure front entry, 14 cameras that we have put in due to fundraisers that we have had, a fence enclosing the eastern portion of our school grounds, and our Student Council and Hope Patrol actively promote and look for ways to help others feel included or need a friend to play with. The culture of Mount Mahogany is one of looking out for one another, helping whoever is in need, and emanating positivity to everyone we come in contact with, as well as persevering through whatever challenge we face as a collective unit. An example of cohesion can be found in our school's win time, or defined for each student as what I need. Our school leadership team collaborated together and had dialogue, not only together but with other schools, on what we could do to help our students the most. And this win time was established as a dedicated intervention time across each grade level where we utilize our resources, people, and a collective efforts to meet the needs of each student. Here's some things that make Mount Mahogany such a fantastic community. And so I asked a few students and people at our school. First, Beckham Hurst said, "The teachers are nice and they take care of me and give me prizes and treats." If they earn them, I guess. Great job, Beckham. Sybil Christensen said, "I like that it's a really good school and our theme is being kind to each other." Lillian Johnson said, "I like Mount Mahogany because the teachers are all so nice and they help us learn by playing fun games and we get to be with them all day." Devin Bertrand said, "I like that everyone at Mount Mahogany is kind and respectful to others." Sophia Gaines said, "I like the school because everyone is kind and the teachers help you a lot." Ava Anderson, our student council president, said, "I love Mount Mahogany because everyone at the school is kind, caring, respectful, and helpful to each other." Some of our staff members said, first Mrs. Rogers, our instructional coach, "The friendliness of our faculty and staff is amazing, and we have awesome students that are willing to do their best each day." Mrs. Anderson, a sixth grade teacher, said, "The faculty and staff at Mount Mahogany are amazing." Mrs. Hyatt, a first grade intern teacher, said, "The faculty and staff are always looking for ways to help each other out." Mrs. Nystrom, an aide, said, "The staff in the hallway are always friendly and kind." Mrs. Kaiser said, "Mount Mahogany is such a great school because we have so many incredible support staff and resources to help our students be successful." And finally, Mrs. Connors, a speech teacher, said, "At Mount Mahogany we have great people, great faculty, great students, and an all-around great community." To add to this and to close, I personally, as I mentioned, love everything about Mount Mahogany. I'm a Ram through and through. There's a tremendous sense of community that you feel as soon as you walk in our doors. And it's an honor to be there each day. Everyone is greeted by smiling, caring people who want what is best for everyone, not just themselves. You won't find a more devoted staff who strives daily to help our students feel loved, empowered, and safe within our walls. Our staff is extremely devoted in providing students with the knowledge, skills, and dispositions they need to attain the brightest future possible. Our students show determination, perseverance, and most importantly, kindness towards each other. And that was echoed in a lot of the comments that the students said, which I really appreciated. All of our Mount Mahogany staff members work tirelessly to provide an environment where students can look back fondly on their elementary years, as we believe all students can achieve high levels of success. We want them to recognize the amount of growth that they achieve, not only each day, but throughout the year. But we want, most of all, they remember how they were part of our Rams family. One of my favorite quotes comes from Leo Hart. It says, "With hard work, determination, and instilling a belief in themselves, all children can find success and take their rightful place." This is what truly embodies the spirit of Mount Mahogany Elementary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shirley. And I would just like to chime in. I love visiting Mount Mahogany, and I always like to go out on the playground and talk to the kids. And I think this motto, to choose kindness, is really made a difference in the school. And they always show me where I need to go to find my way into the building, and I observe them caring about each other, and I think that's a wonderful thing to have in a school. So thank you so much for that presentation. And we also wanted to recognize the floral arrangements that we have here in front. I can't remember who, I think it was Stacy. I thought maybe it was a funeral or something, but it's actually this flower display is provided by the Lone Peak High School Floral Design class, an FFA, and they've also provided us with some notes and letters to board members that I was really touched by. And thank you so much for providing us with that decoration for our meeting this evening. That was great. So thank you for that presentation. And this, by the way, for those who are visiting with us, we kind of try to take an opportunity to understand how things are going in our schools. This is kind of, normally we are out in the schools, and we have all of the kids come up and get an award. I hope you'll take an opportunity, maybe at an assembly or something, to present them with those awards, because it's a little difficult maybe to come to the district office. But we have had a great demand for streaming our board meetings, and we just can't do that in all of the schools because of technical issues. So we've decided to go ahead and hold this meeting here so that we can actually stream the video and audio. But we really want those students and faculty to make sure they're celebrated for what they're doing. So thank you for doing that. We now will move into community comments. And just a few notes. Patrons who wish to address the board are asked to sign up, and so we have the list of those who've signed up. Individuals living outside of the district can submit written comments to the Board of Education, and we actually read those, and I believe respond to those as well when people submit written comments, so we appreciate that. Students or speakers should introduce themselves by stating their name. The board will not engage in a discussion, so you don't need to ask us questions. However, following your community comment, we can have a staff member go and talk to you in the lobby to answer some of the questions that you have. Personnel issues are not appropriate discussion items for open meeting environment. If you have a personnel concern, we ask you to contact a member of the administration or put your concern in writing and address it to the Board of Education. And by the way, we try to respond very quickly to emails that are sent to board members, and so that is really an effective way if you have a concern. The Alpine School District is a legislative body and functions under the same operational rules as other similar bodies. Public input is to assist the board in ascertaining public attitudes and interests. It's not a forum for open discussions or debate between the board and patrons. So we will now go into community comments, and we're going to have a time limit of about 3 minutes per comment. We appreciate it if you can keep to that. And we'll go ahead and start with Shasha McAllister, and then Mark Ullman, you're on deck for after Sasha is done. I'm slaughtering your name. Sorry about that. Seisha, okay.
Okay, good evening. My name is Seisha McAllister. I'm a wife of an awesome guy who's here to support me and a mom of 5 children. We've been part of this great school district since 2005. I want to first say thank you to the board for your efforts in serving the children and staff in the Alpine School District. I appreciate the fact that you've fought for our kids to be attending school in person. I love kids, and I'm also here to fight for the kids. I received the email last week notifying parents of the test to stay protocol that will be implemented in our schools if the COVID threshold is met. I was very shocked that this was the solution that was implemented in the event that numbers start to rise in our schools. To take an entire school that may have anywhere from about 500 to 1,500 students and have them all tested seemed a little bit unrealistic to me. In the last year, these kids have had to adapt to many different scenarios, and I've had high schoolers that have had to deal with this: social distancing, constant sanitizing, online school, hybrid schools, even being quarantined, even though they were masked and social distanced, canceled sports, minimized sports, altered graduations, canceled school dances. The list is long. And I guess that's some of that comes with the days we live, the crazy times that we live. But this test to stay protocol is just one more scenario that I feel like our kids should not have to be subjected to. A nurse recently gave my married daughter a PCR test, and she confirmed what I had heard, that the PCR tests are not super accurate. 40 to 50% is what this nurse had told us. And so if that's true, that we're going to be creating some false positives with those tests. And we'll be sending kids home without warrant to quarantine. There's a virologist from University of California, Riverside, and she was concerned about the tests in that the cycle threshold above 35 on these tests is too sensitive. The PCR test with anything as high as 40 may not detect just live viruses, but also genetic fragments left over from infections that pose no particular risk. So if my elementary child tests positive, even they may not have any symptoms, they're sent home for 10 days. And if I do not give permission to them to be tested, they're also sent home for 10 days. The other issue that I was concerned about with this protocol is the contact tracing. Apparently the schools are already using this with the junior high and high school kids. Sometimes even an app on the phone where they can be traced if they've been tested positive. I don't know if there are many moms that are aware of this or that have taken the time to consider the implications of a teenager being traced. It was a concern to me. About my time. And there's a school in Washington that has gone so far as to put ankle monitors on children to see where they have been. I just ask, when has it gone too far? Many of the friends that I've reached out to in my neighborhood agree and are concerned about government overreach. We as parents have the ability to make wise and informed decisions about our children, and these children have been subjected to enough, and I'm here to be a voice for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Seisha. Next, we have Mark Ullman.
I thank you for this opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Mark Ullman, and I live in Eagle Mountain. I am a parent and a grandparent. And it is not my nature to step on toes, but I feel that this is an important issue to voice. Family is the basic institution of society, one which needs to be protected. The parental rights is essential to this institution. A clear demarcation line should exist between parents' basic rights and the educational system. This line has become muddled by misguided ideas becoming prevalent in many areas of our country. About 30 years ago, important legislation was moving through the California legislature concerning education. A California Teachers Union president had a radio ad that said in no uncertain terms, "The teachers know better how to guide their children than parents." I could not believe my ears. This misguided view may exist with many educators, but we should know that no one is better suited to guide children than their parents. A powerful bond and connection exists between a parent and child, and that bond is love. Leaders in this district should be very careful before considering taking responsibilities from parents. No parent is perfect, not me or any of us. And we may all make mistakes as parents, but this does not disqualify any of us from that stake of responsibility. I know that each of you are concerned about our children, and I do not doubt your sincerity and dedication. I believe in your integrity and the essential nature of your jobs. But parents have a vital role in guiding and protecting their children. It is sad to see in many areas of this country, parents' rights are being squashed, but this should not happen here. However imperfect each parent is, that does not negate the rights to oversee their children. And I felt that this was something that just needed to be voiced. And, because, I am a parent and a grandparent. And I think in our society sometimes that this, maybe this principle is put to the side. And I've also brought a legal summary from the AG from Texas that, I'd like each of you to have a copy of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Next is Sean Patat. Patat, thank you, Sean.
Hi, I'm back. My name's Sean Patat. I'm from Orem. I came here last meeting to discuss the concept of vetting teachers to get rid of abusive teachers related to what happened the first day of school. Told you at the time that I knew of at least one other person that had gone through much the same thing who did not want to speak, and she'd since graduated out anyway. Since then, I've heard of one other person, one of my neighbors, who also refused to come up here and speak because of their accent. It makes them nervous to speak in front of a body like this. Their child was made fun of for being Catholic. So this is very obviously a thing where when you see one, it's like an infestation in a house. You see one roach or one rat, there's 50 in the wall you don't know about. We need to vet the teachers. We need to go through them and find out who's abusing who, what's going on. I told y'all I'd be back in 2 weeks to see what sort of outline somebody had come up with. I'm here. I'll be here the next time. I'll be here the next time until there is an outline and until we can go forward. And I will keep talking to people and find everybody I can. And one of those people are going to come up here and tell you to your face. So, I'm here. We'll be sitting here all of the meeting this time. I had to go deal with the child last time. I'll be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Kara Sherman.
Kara Sherman, American Fork. So I just want to remind the board that you are not elected based on your political party's And that is per state statute. Second, please listen to understand all views and all the people that you serve, and not just the views that you want to hear. Third, you represent all patrons in your area, not just those who you perceive voted for you. 4, you all know that I attend most of your study sessions and board meetings. Remember, in the next 4 years, in the next year, 4 of you will be up for re-election, and there's at least one parent paying attention. Your words and actions or inactions are being noted. And on a different note, also, as obnoxious as they are, and as much as I dislike them, I would urge you to continue to encourage all school staffs and volunteers and others that are employed by the Alpine School District to wear masks when possible in schools. I was at a meeting recently that I was in charge of in a building owned by the district, and there were 8 personnel in the room and 7 patrons. We were having an hour-long meeting. I kept my mask off for the most part, unless I was not speaking, and then I put it on. But there were only 2 other people wearing masks, and they were not personnel. And I would urge you to continue to have people wear masks when possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Kara. Next, we have Carla Christiansen.
My 8th grader came home from school last week feeling confused about an assignment. I don't like hearing that. And he said, "Mom, I think this is kind of political, and I really hate hearing that at school. Columbus's men, King Ferdinand, Queen Isabella, and the system of empire were put on trial for the mistreatment and murder of up to 3 million Taino Indians. Nuance of the time in which these groups of people lived is left out of this assignment. Broad generalizations about groups of people were made. Historical information was left out, such as that the vast majority of this group of Indians died from being exposed to diseases they had no immunity to. These cases were built upon journal entries from a few men, including one of whom was a political rival of Columbus's, and this is a known fact. There is some subtle pro-communism information in the systems of empire section and anti-capitalism rhetoric. The assignment came from the Zinn Education Project, which was founded to honor Howard Zinn, a well-known communist who wrote A People's History of the United States. Zinn saw America through the lens of Marxism. He believed the root of all evil was the concept of property and the distribution of wealth, and you can see this in the assignment. His critics accused him of favoring partisan history, rejection of historical balance, and using selective quotation of sources. The Zinn Education Project, I found out, was founded by 2 nonprofits, Rethinking Schools and Teaching for Change, who both seek to abolish Columbus Day, among other political goals that were very partisan. I have spoken with our school history department head and was told the intention was not political, but was to give a broader perspective of possible sources to blame for the mistreatment of this group of Indians, rather than vilifying Columbus alone. I can see the school's point here. I'm just not sure the hidden agenda was given enough thought or even notice, and that's what scares me as a parent, that I had to point these things out to this person. In Utah, we only have a list of state standards for history. I just found this out. There's no books. When I taught school, I taught 4th grade Hawaiian history to a bunch of Hawaiian kids. I had a book. The parents knew what I was going to teach the kids by quickly turning the page to the next chapter. I don't have this. All I have is the state standards and a bunch of teachers who are just deciding how to interpret that. And that scares me as a parent. It really does. I think a lot of parents in our country are very concerned about political agendas being pushed into their schools. They're concerned that propaganda is being used And this is on both sides of the political spectrum. I speak to you as a moderate. I can see how difficult it is for our good teachers, too, to find sources they feel that they can trust that are not biased. And this poor teacher didn't even know some of the information that I found. On the other side of the spectrum, we may have teachers that have an agenda that can easily push this because there's no textbook and they're not being monitored. History should be taught from neutral sources. That should be the goal. The district should consider a list of politically charged educational websites for subjects like history and literature. Specifically, some of these websites the district may need to ban, others the district might need to make sure they fit in with their state standards. These sites need to come with a warning for parents, and preferably before a lesson happens so parents can discuss with their children. In our school district, I did find a clear path for grievances from library material, but not for instructional material. I talked to the curriculum chair. This policy, 6161, was written in 1983 and does not reflect the world my kids are growing up in at all. I asked her if my concerns were valid. She said that they were. And I said I would like to have some parental input on this policy. Parents need to be aware of what their children are taught. We need to have a clear path for voicing concerns about instructional material used. But I would also add parents need to know what their children are going to be taught before it happens in order to preserve trust in our educational system and respect for parents and our families, beliefs and cultures and values. And I say this to represent anyone on the political spectrum. This doesn't belong in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. We appreciate your comments. Brooke Nelson.
Hi, my name's Brooke Nelson. It was good to hear Carla's words. I'm just going to piggyback on top of that. I like how she had a lot of factual evidence with that. I just want to tell you, like as a mom, I have 4 children. One's in Lone Peak, 2 are in Timberline Middle School, and my youngest is in Ridgeline Elementary. And my youngest came home to me and he said, with a very distraught look on his face, "Mom, tell me the truth. Was Columbus a horrible person?" And I was just kind of taken back by I didn't expect my 5th grader to say that to me. And so I just kind of wanted to make you guys aware of maybe some of the stuff that our children are being taught. And I wondered if it lined up with the Utah State curriculum and what was intended for our children to be taught. I had my 8th grader had the same assignment that you guys can see right there that Carla's son had, and I saw that, and then I was really taken back. The way that assignment was set up in their classroom was pretty much it was set up as a debate, and it was kind of like, who is at fault? And you can read underneath there, it says, who is at fault for the thousands, maybe, what did it say, millions of murder for the indigenous people. And first of all, it's a playwright, and it's set up as a debate as who is at fault. I mean, it just seems to be teaching a matter of opinion and not facts. And I'm all about teaching all sides of the story, but the taste that my children came home with was not the good and the bad. And this is like clashing of the African slaves and the indigenous people and the European colonies and all of us coming together, and here's the good and the bad and the ugly, and guess what? America came from that. I didn't pick up, it seemed very anti-American, and it seemed against your guys' code. I actually looked up the state curriculum for United States history, and I looked up under United States History 1, civic preparation. It just says real quick, the last 2 sentences of that first paragraph. Social studies classrooms are the ideal location to foster civic virtue, consider current issues, learn how to act civilly toward one another, to build civic identity, and promote awareness of global issues. These skills, habits, and qualities of character, here's the part, will prepare students to accept responsibility for preserving and defending their liberties. And I don't understand how my kids can grow up defending their liberties or defending their country if they're going away with a feeling of shame and guilt. And I just wanted you to be aware that this came from 3 of my children, and so maybe it's coming from the top down. Maybe this isn't just one teacher's opinion. swaying a classroom. And I just wanted to spread awareness in hopes that you guys can maybe get to the bottom of it. If truth and American ideals aren't taught in the class titled United States History, where will it be taught? Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Brooke. We appreciate your comments. Molly Barrington.
Let me talk because I was late today, and it's something I want to bring to you guys' attention. I had to carry him up the front steps because the back door, that is the handicap accessible one, is locked. And unfortunately, it seems to be an attitude in the district that the SPED department, which is greatly important, is sometimes overlooked. In the wonderful Mount Mahogany presentation today, the SPED classes were left out of the student recognition. I don't know if they were honored by grade, but there wasn't one SPED student there. He did mention one of the gals had some challenges. But in last meeting, all of your extracurricular activities and summer programs were mentioned, except for the SPED one. There were no pictures of SPED kids in any of those reports. Not one. And these kids mean a lot. And Highland Elementary has realized that and has made a community for these kids where these kids not only accepted, but they are wanted. And that is why the Highland parents fought so hard to keep our program. Because it is true that they can get services anywhere in this district, but it also comes with bullying. It comes with lack of support from other staff members where the SPED teachers are treated like second-class citizens. And they put a SPED class where one of the classes that they were going to move to, and they moved a teacher and set up a class at Forbes Elementary where there is already a known bullying problem. And it breaks my heart because that is where they wanted to put my son. And I don't know anybody in this room that would put their child in harm's way for an education. I don't know anybody who would. And I'll tell you what, I'm not putting my son there where even just a kid goofing off could seriously injure my son in his wheelchair. All he had to do is give him a little shove, being funny, and he'd go over one step and his wheelchair would tip over and he would have a serious head injury. And I just wanted to bring that up to you, that these kids matter, and I know you know they matter, but I think you need to step back and look at it from especially a SPED parent's point of view, who sees the wonderful environment that their kid is and sees what it could be and what it often is. And remember, when you're doing these reports, that you've got a couple of thousand kids in your district. You know, I don't know the exact numbers. I know it's right around 10, but these kids need to be included in your reports as well, not just in a separate report that comes in from the SPED department. They need to be in your overall reports every time. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly. We appreciate your comments. Thank you. Tamara Oborn.
Okay, sorry, I know they snuck me on the list because I filled out the wrong form, but I did fill something out online. I'm going to read this so we get through the time. I wanted to first thank you for all that you do. I didn't know I'd be giving the devotional today when I came in, but I know you have a difficult job and it really is impossible to please everyone, but you all give your heart and soul to what is best for the kids. I'm here to discuss the potential of Alpine School District joining the recent litigation against the vaping industry. I know the district has been invited to participate in that lawsuit with every other district in Utah. Vaping is a growing problem, increasing at a faster rate than any other substance abuse issue we have seen. Our families don't know what's happening, and in many cases, kids are becoming addicted without even understanding that vape devices contain nicotine. It's easy to hide smells. It's usually fruity or perfume-like and doesn't taste gross. It's quite appealing to youth. Without horrible smoke, smell, or the need to light anything, vaping is more accessible and appealing to kids, even if they're just curious or being peer pressured, and it doesn't have the negatives of traditional tobacco use. 85% of kids in Pleasant Grove who have tried tobacco have used vape devices, and 10% of all of the kids in our community have tried vaping. Think about that number. My job as a prevention coordinator for my community is to study the risk and protective factors of abuse, addiction, and suicide. All of our SHARPS data shows that vaping is increasing, as well as the risk factors that lead to substance abuse, like depressive symptoms, feeling unsafe at school, bullying, family conflict, and other family management problems. I've been personally researching this issue since I became the coordinator of Pleasant Grove City, and I can assure you it's a very serious problem and it's only going to get worse. Myself and the AF prevention coordinator worked hard to get a grant to get vape devices put in schools, in 4 schools in the district, in American Fork and Pleasant Grove. These devices are just being activated and will hopefully start to help the schools deal with this growing problem. However, we do need more attention and education toward the prevention of vaping in our schools and communities, and not just catching the kids after the fact. The resources this lawsuit could provide us could be so important in fighting the substance abuse battle. I know the ASD doesn't have all the resources it needs to accomplish everything that you're required to do. I know that. I know we have a lot of kids, and this lawsuit could simply be a way to give us a boost with nearly no cost other than about 5 hours of work and questionnaires to fill out to the district. It just makes sense. I work directly with the families and the administrators that are dealing with this. And I submitted to you already an email from our Pleasant Grove vice principal, and she stated the different things that they're seeing, and they know it's a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamara. So just kind of in summary of the of the community comments, I hear that Seisha's saying that, students have been subjected to hardships and we need to really avoid government overreach. I appreciate Mark's comments on parental rights and how important that is to respect them. Sean, we appreciate your comments on teacher vetting. And I would invite you to meet with a staff member who can kind of help you know what's being done and where we're going on that. Kara, we appreciate your concern about wearing masks and other guidelines about listening to all people. Carla, appreciate your concerns and kind of helping us to understand about the political agenda that you see behind curriculum. And Brooke, also, I really appreciate you coming and kind of sharing those thoughts with us. Thank you. Molly, we really appreciate you, particularly bringing your son with you. He's so cute, and believe us when we say that our heart is really with these kids. And Tamara, we appreciate you being here and providing our thought, and we'll be discussing that vaping issue as well. So thank you for your community comments. We appreciate those who've taken time to provide us with insights into these issues. We'll now move into action items. Dr. Farnsworth, would you like to lead us through that?
Yes, just a point of clarification. Do we need to approve minutes? Okay. Thank you. First action item we have are our local LEA-specific licenses. You've received those in your packet, and I would recommend your approval of them.
So I think we've all been given that. A motion would be in order.
I'll move to approve the LEA-specific licenses for this month.
We have a motion from Amber and a second from Sarah. In discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes.
Second item is student trip requests. You have received those in your packet, and we recommend that you approve those as well.
Do I hear a motion?
I'd like to move that we approve trip requests.
I'll second it.
I have a motion from Ada, a second from Sarah Beeson. Any discussion on student trip requests?
I wanted to say thank you to Jeff Schoonover for answering our questions, and I appreciate the fact that we are not requiring vaccines of any students going on trips. That is not required.
And let's see, is Jeff here?
He is not.
Okay. I did notice, Superintendent, that there was one parent who voted against a trip to New York. Do you have any background on that, or
I can follow up on that.
anyway,
but I
if
do
you
not.
wouldn't mind following, because I believe our policy was that we needed unanimous support by parents before we approved a trip to some place that required vaccines. So.
And we will find out if that is a vaccine reason or other reason.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. Am I muffled? I was looking at the trip requests, and there's several for boys basketball tournaments that are around Christmas time, either before or after Christmas. And I noticed that in some cases they are going by bus, and in some cases they're flying. And the trip cost was varied from $400 to $1,000. That is a lot of money for a family to come up with at Christmas time. So I would really like to encourage our coaches and our principals to keep those costs at an absolute minimum, because I think it can become a burden if they don't.
Many of those are covered by fundraisers as well. You can notice that in the trip request, whether that's a student cost or a fundraiser cost.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor of approving the student trip request, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you. Action item number 3 is Resolution 2021-002, authorizing property purchase of 9.1 acres in Saratoga Springs. We'll give time to Rob to answer any questions, to give a brief description of that. And I recommend your approval.
Thank you, Superintendent. Needed elementary school site. We're happy to have an agreement before you. We've talked about it prior and would recommend your approval. Open to any questions that you may have.
So, oh, sorry.
Do you want to make a motion first and then discuss, or what would you like to do?
Well, I want to do both, so I'll make the
Okay.
motion first.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm super excited about this.
Okay.
Okay, I move that we pass Resolution 2021-022, authorizing the property purchase of 9.1 acres in Saratoga Springs, Utah.
We have a motion by Julie and a second by Sarah Hacken. Go ahead with your comment.
So just to clarify, this is property in the Wander community, and if I remember correctly, it's a little bit further east. So I'm assuming, are we going to have to be doing some mitigation to the site because of the water table? Will that be part of the cost of construction?
Yes, and yes, and finally, yes.
I just wanted to clarify, because I know sometimes there's different dynamics in the cost of building a school, like with Harbor Point, the amount of concrete we had to put in there because of its proximity to Redwood Road. I'm assuming that the cost of construction of this school may be a little bit higher than other schools because of the mitigation that's going to exist on the site that we're purchasing. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Absolutely, true. The cost of mitigation will be identified when we go to bid. Our engineers will design the best option for the longevity of our school and the support of our children and the community use of our facility as well. And I'll be able to tell you what those costs will be when that bid is complete. But similar to what we've done at Dry Creek, it was ironic that Dry Creek Elementary, it was actually one of the wettest school sites we've ever built on. But we did mitigate that with H-beams or steel beams that were driven down into bedrock to make sure that that school, it's probably one of the safest schools to be in if it came to an earthquake or something like that, because it's sitting on steel struts that go all the way down into bedrock. So we'll assess those mitigation factors. We'll work with our facilities team, Kimberly, her team, and we will do the right thing to make sure, and then I can give you a report on costs. But yes, it will cost more. That was the long answer. My first 3 answers were the short answer.
I like all the answers. Okay, thank you, Rob. Appreciate that.
So the summary of that is cheap land costs us money, the public money.
And in this case, expensive land in a wet water table or high water table costs a little more money. One of the challenges we're finding is as this community develops, if we don't plan for school sites in a development in area that's more easily developed, the cost to taxpayers increases. And so we're mindful of that, working with our good city partners, and would have liked to have tied up about another 200 acres of property years and years ago. But we're working with our cities and developers to get school sites close to the homes where the kids will come from.
Yeah, I'm sorry, there is no cheap land left, sorry.
Other comments? Okay, we have a motion from Julie, a second from Sarah Hacken to pass Resolution 2021-22, authorizing property purchases in Saratoga Springs. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you, President Clement. Our last action item is Resolution 2021-023. This is the sale of property of 0.9 of an acre adjacent to Sage Hills Elementary. And Business Administrator Rob, you can give a brief description of the reason for that sale as well.
This is a remnant parcel. It's north of the road. If you'll recall, this has been an issue in our Saratoga Springs joint work sessions with you. I actually visited with the city administrator prior to this meeting, let him know that these 2 items that affected Saratoga Springs City were on the agenda for board consideration tonight. He was appreciative. This will be purchased by an adjacent property owner and the HOA, which will save taxpayer dollars by us not having to develop property that's really unusable for the school site. It's on the north side of the actual road, so it's not property that we could utilize for our children. And that's why we have delayed for years and years and years of putting money into developing something that's not usable for us, trying to save the scarce resources we have. So I would recommend your approval.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion?
I move that we pass Resolution 2021-023, authorizing the sale of 0.09 acre property bordering Sage Hills Elementary.
We have a motion by Julie, a second by Stacy. Any discussion?
So I don't know if we have the map, but just to kind of make sure that our public is aware, what Rob is describing is basically the street next to Sage Hills. There's a sidewalk, and then there's essentially a park strip kind of behind the sidewalk. So it really is completely unusable space for us. Like, I don't even think we could, even put bike racks there. So just to clarify that that's just really essentially like a park strip of a property that is really not usable space for us whatsoever. So yeah, you can see in the map there, that David's kind of circling. It's a very small stretch. Thanks.
Any use by that would actually put students at risk crossing that road, so it's not contiguous to the school site and therefore unusable.
Great. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion from Julie, a second from Stacy to pass Resolution 2021-023, authorizing the sale of .09 acres. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. Keep going, Superintendent. You're on a roll.
Thank you. Appreciate the board approving those action items. We have 2 discussion/action items, so we will discuss these. If the board feels comfortable moving forward to an action, we would invite you to do so. We invite Kimberly Bird, Executive Director of Internal Relations and Operations, to share with you Policy 6048 on homeschool. Thank you, Kimberly.
Thank you, Superintendent. David's going to put the policy up for us. This policy was outdated. As others have mentioned, we've got about over 400 policies. We're working as quickly as we can with our board policy committee. 6161 is under construction. You probably saw that when you went to the policy page for the board. So thank you for your patience with us. It's on our agenda. We've looked at it once, and it's under revision. Thank you. Okay, homeschool, it used to be called home instruction. We wanted to clarify this policy in case we had any of our patrons looking up homeschool. That's typically how it's referred to. So we just have requested for a title change, but we've made significant changes in the language, bringing it up to 2021, and also following any updates to state law. So I'll give you guys a minute to get your bearings on the information that you've been reading, and ask what comments you might have.
Kimberly, you know that never does a policy come through that I don't have a comment. Okay, so two pieces that I want to comment on. Okay, so first off, I have to say I'm very, very grateful, because as someone who has previously homeschooled, the language in the previous policy was, I'm going to say, bordering on offensive. So the fact that you guys tackled this and brought it up, like, so appreciative, and the entire tone has changed. So I am extremely grateful that policy addressed the issue and did so in such a respectful way for parents choosing the right option for education of their children. So massive shout out. I think that is a significant jump. So thank you. 2 specific, I guess, feedback pieces. In the second paragraph, in the second sentence, where it starts off, however, I don't like the word, because I feel like however is essentially like a but in a sentence, and it kind of negates what you have previously said. And so I feel like the statement is strong without the however. And I feel like it's a strong statement, and so I would personally appreciate if we could remove that however from that sentence. And then the section that we spoke about earlier, the 1.6, I know we're just approving the statement of policy, but the section 1.6, where it talks about how we highly recommend standardized testing and for our homeschool students to access that. As someone who has previously homeschooled, I feel pretty confident in saying that in the homeschool community, testing is not seen as being super essential, especially when you're working with your kid one-on-one every day. You're very aware of where their deficits are and where their strengths are. And it states that we highly recommend that students access standardized testing programs through the district. I would actually recommend that we strike that statement entirely, and that if we want to have, I realize that we need to communicate to parents that they can access a standardized test through the district, and whether we just reword that and, move the 1.6.1 or, kind of combine those little pieces or whatever. But I don't think when a parent is homeschooling their child, for us to say, we highly recommend your child go through a standardized test, I feel like we need to be respectful of what the parental choices are. And if parents choose to access that, that's great that it's an offering. But I don't like the wording of we highly recommend. And that's my feedback.
both really good comments. I don't think that that would be problematic to remove 1.6 unless there are other thoughts or ideas from other members of the board. On the introduction, paragraph 2, the word however, I don't think that would be difficult for us to remove unless there are other thoughts or feelings from other board members.
No, and thank you for starting with a compliment, because we did feel quite proud that it was kind of an archaic policy with archaic ideas about what homeschooling is, and we just didn't quite catch the however. But just so the public does know and understand, and when we are following the code, 53G, 62A of the state. And so, yeah, I don't think it would change the meaning behind it. So I think the policy committee doesn't have an issue with that.
I concur. I mean, just in rereading this in preparation for this meeting, I went, however, what? we let that slip, and I think that's a good change, as well as the 1.6 that you recommended. I think a neutral statement is totally acceptable, and I think we need to revisit that.
I would suggest leaving that paragraph, but just saying parents of homeschool students may access testing through the district, and here's how to do it.
Is that okay?
Yeah, as long as I just think, and I was fine with if we needed to like reword it or whatever, yeah. So, and I know that we're not necessarily approving all the detail pieces, but I think just saying like, here's the option for how you access it. But yeah, we're remaining neutral as to, we're not recommending standardized testing for all homeschooled students.
Yep, good point. In that introduction, David, will you go to the statement of policy? Let's look at that first sentence, especially for those who have taken the time to come to the meeting and hearing some of the public comment that we've heard tonight. The Board of Education recognizes the parent as the primary person responsible for the education of the student. The state has a secondary and supportive role to the parent. And I just want to note that the 3 members of the Board of Ed, which is Board Member Beeson, Board Member Hacken, and Board Member Wilson, felt strongly that that needed to be the opening statement. They do believe and understand what the Utah Constitution says and is about. And we are slowly trying to make change and make sure that we are listening to everyone and taking everyone's needs into consideration. So I wanted to clarify that for all of you wonderful people who have come tonight and have expressed some really great comments. Secondly, Julie, I think that'll be no problem moving the word however. We can just start that sentence with the Board of Education sees the value of a public school system and encourages families to use resources provided by the state in the form of public schools. We are a public school institution, so that's clear of our purpose, but I do believe that however can easily be removed. Thank you. Great comments and great ideas.
Thanks. Also, in that second paragraph where it talks the Board of Ed supports all forms of education, should we change each to every child?
Where are you looking?
Right there. So it says the Board of Education supports all forms of education for the learning and betterment of each child. Should that say every?
Okay.
Are you trying to start a word?
I am trying to start a fight with you, Sarah.
Okay.
Just this is.
I don't.
And every, how about each and every child?
It means
That one might be
essentially the
more of
same
like
thing.
a stylish one, but I think however, you made a really good point on 1.6.
I can win
Great
2 and
point.
lose 1. That's fine. That's way better than my regular batting average, so I'll take it.
Yeah.
So maybe this would be a great time for a motion, maybe including some of these amendments.
I move that we accept this policy, or that we move this policy to an action item, and that we accept it as a board policy, as amended.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion from Sarah Hacken, a second from Sarah Beeson to approve policy 6048. I believe with the amendment to the however and the section further down in 1.6,
yeah.
As we've discussed. Is that correct? Any discussion on that?
I have something really quick. I just want to say I appreciate the thought that's gone into this. I do think that our community has a lot of options now, and it is up to the parent to decide what option best fits the need of their child. But I do think that as a district, we want to and are willing to support parents in the decisions that they're making about their child's education. And so I appreciate that the new policy is more, reflects that belief that we have the responsibility to support parents in the decisions that they're making for their children, rather than maybe how it was worded before. So
Okay.
thanks.
Thank you. And Board Member Bonner, you brought to our attention 6161, so we're getting on it, and appreciate you for letting us be aware of that, and appreciate the parents for trusting us to continue to work, and we are working quickly, I assure you that. But 6161 is on our agenda.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Wait, we didn't vote.
I know, I'm waiting for
Oh, okay.
any other discussion?
Yeah, I would like to clarify. Can we go down to 6.1 again on that? Or is it?
1.6.
I mean 1.6. Thank you. Okay, let me make sure I understand what we are agreeing or discussing on this. That we will leave 1.6.1, 1.6.11 as written, but the 1.6 we'll say something like, if parents would like to take advantage of standardized testing available by the district, they can da-da-da-da.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
We're not
Okay.
saying that it's just we're taking out the highly recommend thing.
Yeah,
We're just
okay.
saying we're making the
Okay.
information available if you choose to exercise that option.
Okay,
Yeah.
but yeah, that being the case, I would totally support that because I think that's important for parents to know that's available to them.
Yeah, and I just wanted to point out that there's a whole section in this called District and Homeschool Cooperation. And this policy just outlines the authority of parents to call the shots in their homeschool program. But it does say that schools can cooperate in providing curriculum if it should be desired, or kind of mile markers if the parent so desires.
Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion from Ada, a second from Sarah. to
And
approve-
SPED is in this policy. Yes, it is.
It is.
Sorry.
To approve policy 6048 for homeschool. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you, Board, for that. We would invite David Stevenson, Executive Director of External Relations and Communications, who has a recommendation or a discussion of some boundary adjustment studies that we would like to propose. We recommend that you support those. If the Board is comfortable, we can take action on that this evening.
Thank you, Superintendent Farnsworth and board members. As you recall, in the study session at our last board meeting, we reviewed some of the boundary enrollment throughout the district and some of the boundary hotspots. And so we just wanted to bring it here to formalize a potential study. And so with that, I just wanted to show that the study, we are following 53G-4-402, which requires that we do a 120-day study prior to the board approving any boundary changes. You will recall we talked about quite a few areas, but we have two specific ones we want to talk about tonight. The first one was brought to our attention by Board Member Bonner, and that is the area where you see the blue arrow. That area currently has no homes, but it's has the potential to be developed. And with the enrollment between Ridgeline and Westfield, we would like to study that potential for a boundary change by incorporating that area into Westfield's boundary. And so, as I mentioned, we'll spend that 120 days to notify the city council, and those impacted by this boundary change. The second one is a little more difficult than that one. The second one was brought to our attention, obviously, by Board Member King, and this is Mountain Trails and Eagle Valley. You can see Mountain Trails there has a current enrollment of 1,095. Eagle Valley has an enrollment of 841. We've done some initial work with Derek Farnes, our GIS specialist, and he has indicated students who live in some of the different neighborhoods surrounding Eagle Valley as potential neighborhoods that could be reboundaried to Eagle Valley Elementary. But obviously the work over the next 120 days would be to put together a committee, go to focus groups, and we'll cover a timeline here in just a minute on that. But just wanted to show this as, the current boundary and potential options that we're looking at with the number of students, and those are K through 5 students. Any questions, comments on this map as we're looking at it?
I guess just it appears to me that Pony Express Parkway is a bit busier road than Eagle Mountain Boulevard. Is that correct?
Depends on
time of day.
The day, I guess. Especially, to the Eagle Mountain Boulevard from Pony Express east, it's not as busy as west. Would you agree, Julie?
Yeah, and I think one of the challenges is that basically you don't have any schools along Eagle Mountain Boulevard, and then you are seeing some residential areas popping up, but the biggest chunk of Eagle Mountain Boulevard does not have, it's generally just farmland. So one of the challenges is Pony Express is where I would argue the majority of people do travel and reside. And like as we heard in our Eagle Mountain meeting the other day, there's a significant shift from, used to be that the majority of the development was in the ranches and a smaller portion was in city center, and that's really significantly starting to shift with growth and new builds. I know that there's even like a area going in near the Tyson facility, which when when Tyson was built, it felt like it was in the middle of nowhere, and that's really not true anymore. Same with Facebook.
Do I hear a motion on the discussion action item number?
I have just a little bit more information, if that's
Sorry.
okay.
Keep going.
But obviously I appreciate the legislature's forward thinking with this 120 days. It's going to give us that time to look into, the questions that you have and work with the city. And so we will develop a committee, and these are just some of the folks that will ask to serve on that committee, including a member of the Eagle Mountain City, probably from the Planning Commission or someone there that can help us look at those developments and where they're going to be coming in, which ones they think will be developed sooner than later. And then just a timeline here. September, we're providing the notice. If you approve this today to put this into a study, that will begin today. We will then notify the families impacted along with the cities, the city council, the mayor, and then we'll follow the timeline. In October, the committee will meet to review data, establish potential boundary options, and then we'll go out to focus groups with SEC, PTAs, faculty, parent groups, and then by law we'll hold 2 public hearings, take public comment, and then in January the board will have it as a discussion item and then an action item. So,
David, I'm assuming a committee is not needed for the change in my area.
Well,
Since
I'm
there's
not
no
thinking we need
no
a committee
families
there
there.
because there are
Right.
no people impacted since
Right.
there are no people living there.
Thank you. Thank you for that detailed presentation. Do I hear a motion?
I move to, okay, do I have to change it to an action item first?
You
Or
can do it
just
all in
move-
one.
Okay. Okay. I move to make the boundary adjustment studies formal, move those to a formal study today.
I'll second it.
We have a motion from Amber, a second from Julie. Any discussion?
I'd like to just make sure that that our public sometimes gets confused when we act and they only hear the boundary change part, and they don't hear this is a potential boundary change. It's a discussion that's opened, and it's opened by law, and it's going to be, it may be quite some time before it's actually resolved. And so we don't want our public to be alarmed, but to know that they will be fully informed, and we will be transparent in this process. So anyway, just don't want anybody to get overly excited just because we're opening a study.
Thank you.
So one of the comments that I wanted to make, so David, particularly when we're talking about mountain trails in Eagle Valley, there's no question that this one's going to be a tough one because both of those schools are at high numbers. I mean, very likely that Eagle Valley will be over 900 next year. Mountain Trails is pushing 1,100. We added 3 portables this year. The likelihood is that based on the growth in that area, Mountain Trails is going to continue to grow and grow fairly quickly based on what we're seeing as far as the growth patterns out there. And I guess one of the things, so this one's going to be tough because we're talking about essentially both schools being in a very high number of enrollment as far as, our student enrollment. The other thing that's a little bit tough about this one is this is probably a temporary boundary change. Because of the growth that's happening in Eagle Mountain, we need to get another school built out there. So this is something that will probably be, in effect for 2 or 3 years. The likelihood that when we build another school out in that section of Eagle Mountain, potentially that would impact both Eagle Valley and Mountain Trails. I mean, obviously we don't have a specific site, we don't have whatever, but it's very likely that both of those schools will see additional changes once a new school is built in that area. So I want to also be clear with the public that because of the size of these schools, that this is probably a temporary fix, knowing the growth patterns in Eagle Mountain, and that for any school on the west side, one of the things that we have learned is that change is constant, and that just when you think you have your school boundaries solidified, a shift happens just because of those growth patterns. So I just wanted to make sure that I acknowledge that early on, that this is probably a temporary dynamic, and I want to be clear about that. And I appreciate the fact that you were so clear about the timeline. I think sometimes when things come to the board, people think that decisions have been made. This is the very first step in a 10-step process, that there will be discussions. We will involve the city. We will involve parents. There will be notification. There will be open houses. There will be discussions. There will be options. And we welcome feedback from all of our stakeholders regarding these.
Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion by Amber, a second by Julie to approve the formal public notice of boundary adjustment study. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Next, we have a discussion item. Superintendent.
Thank you, Board President Clement. I sent out in your board docs a listing of the adjustment to committees. We've discussed that in our Tuesday morning meetings. President Clement sent out a Google form asking for your preference of what committee you serve on. What we need to, what I would like to, we discuss this as well a little bit in study session. Our thought is to start this in November. We need some feedback on time, dates of these. Our thought was, if possible, once we get a sense of what committee you'll be on, we will look at the structure to see if those can be held on Tuesday mornings. So when you come for your meeting with the superintendent, 3 of you, you can stay for your committee meeting, and we would try and offset those. So there may be some Tuesdays when you come that you don't have a meeting with the superintendent, you would just come for your committee meetings. But need to know your preference. That works well with the leadership team because of other meetings that we have on other days, but we can make adjustments if that's not in harmony with what the board would like. So, some thoughts and discussion on that and the timing of that and how we've grouped these committees. Any feedback for the staff on that?
I like meeting on Tuesday morning because some of us are already here, and a lot of us have just dedicated Tuesdays to school boards. And so it's an excellent time for us to have those meetings. So I would say let's go ahead and continue that if that works for everyone.
So I like the idea of it, but I have multiple schools who their SEC meetings all kind of fall on that Tuesday at 10 thing. And so I guess just depending on what the assignments are, I would not like to miss those meetings.
Another option is maybe Thursdays at 8 a.m. Because that might also be available to you. Would that work for board members if we can't make them all on Tuesdays?
I mean, my personal preference is I kind of feel the same way that Sarah Hacken does, where I pretty much have just set aside Tuesdays as, board meeting stuff. But I understand where Stacy's coming from because the same dynamic, right? Like, and I think when you have double-digit schools, it gets even more complicated trying to get to those things. So I think I would prefer if we kind of just plan for Tuesdays, and then Thursdays can maybe be a backup day for when. And if that doesn't interfere, I know that sometimes there's principal things on Thursdays or whatever, as long as it's not like a hardship for the DLT, that maybe we have kind of Thursdays as backup days for when there are conflicts.
I have to say I prefer Tuesdays, as I have an elementary student that somebody just voted to move to 9:15. So 8 o'clock is, I can do it on Thursdays, but it's a little bit tricky. So I prefer Tuesdays, even though there are SCC meetings, because we won't meet every week. So I prefer Tuesdays with Thursdays as a backup also.
Yeah, I understand Stacy's dilemma because I have double-digit schools as well. But of all the schools I visit, only 2 or 3 have their SCCs on Tuesdays, and I generally can look and see what meetings are scheduled. I can get to those schools a couple times a year without a problem.
Yeah,
So I like Tuesdays.
So with my 18 schools, I have 3 schools on the exact same time on the exact same Tuesday. So I think it could probably be worked, but yeah, just having them at that exact same time makes it's a challenge.
Stacy, could I recommend your district community council person who's also in those meetings often is a good resource for those of us that have this issue. Me too.
I very much appreciate the work that our DCC reps do. I know for a lot of people that to have us there present and listening and to be able to address things that maybe the other people in the meeting can't speak to, that's important that we're visible in that space.
Any other discussion? I think you've kind of gotten a summary there, Superintendent. So.
Yes, because there was no discussion on how they were grouped and named, I assume you're all in favor of that grouping. We've combined audit with budget and finance, and you see the naming of them. We can adjust that. I think one clarifying thing that I would recommend is on one that's listed as number 6, equity, inclusion, and student support. We have Cammie Larson, our Executive Director of Human Resources, on there. It would probably change that to equity, inclusion, staff, and student support. So issues that come up with respect to staff support, staff well-being, could be addressed with Cammie on that committee as well. So I would recommend that adjustment because she is serving on that committee with Dr. Ruiz as well.
We had one question. Right now, policy and PR are meeting jointly, and that allows us to meet twice a month, and we split the meetings a little bit, but we're getting through more policies that way. And I noticed on the new system, they're split, and we would like you just to kind of maybe talk to the people involved with that on the staff and see if maybe putting them back together would be more functional, or I don't know what your vision is for those committees, but we're concerned about policy only meeting once a month.
Yeah, and we could adjust that meeting frequency as needed. Our concern was to handle both all the communications issues and the policies issues. It would be good to separate those so that policy would have more time just for policy. But we can take a look at that, and there's some communication things I think that we want to go after as well and improve. Separating that out as its own committee gives that some additional time. That was the thinking behind the separation of those two.
I just have to say, I'm really appreciative that we have these committees, and I like how they've been divided up so that we also are able to work with the district leadership team to accomplish things. And I'm just very grateful that whether it's been feedback from staff, feedback from board members, that we're taking some specific action to make sure that all of those areas that need to be addressed are being addressed and taken care of. Because I think this also presents, it elevates some things that need to be elevated, as well as kind of, I think, clarifying some guidelines for other pieces, which I think is going to be super helpful for us as board members as well as for staff.
And the superintendent.
Any other discussion?
Did you tell us when we were going to get these assignments? Because I feel like you did.
We talked about working on this over the next couple weeks, taking your preferences, trying to determine a schedule and getting those out in the next week or so for feedback, taking that feedback and adjusting it, getting it on the calendar so we could start in November meeting in these committees. So the committees that are currently constituted will continue through the month of October, and we would make that switch in November is the timeline that we talked about. But we could adjust that if the board feels changes need to be made in that timeline.
Patience is a virtue.
I'm just appreciative of your enthusiasm for committee meetings. And so.
Yeah. Thank you, Superintendent. We appreciate this. And by the way, for the public's perspective, this is a fairly significant departure in how we do things in Alpine District. I believe it will result in more collaborative work between the board and the district, and also allow us to address some of these issues like equity that now become first-class citizens in the district, even though they were addressed previously.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to special ed too. One of the things that we did in reorganizing our district leadership team was create a cabinet position specifically over special education to give that more emphasis and more awareness so that we could act purposefully on those students that need additional resources and support. I think it's also reflective of the board and their involvement in the work of the district. I don't know of many other districts that have this many board leadership team committees that will meet regularly to discuss all of these items. So I appreciate the commitment, the extra meetings, the time that takes on behalf of board members, and your willingness and desire to work collaboratively with the district leadership team. So on behalf of my team, thank you for your willingness to participate and work through the issues that these committees will address. I think it will lead to a better school district for our students and families.
Thank you. So we'll now move to board member committee reports. Does anyone have a report they'd like to share with the board?
I will. I'll go first before I forget.
Oh, you go ahead.
Sarah. It's okay. Go ahead.
The Alpine Foundation has a golf tournament once a year to support the STARS summer reading program. And we had that tournament a couple of weeks ago, and I just wanted to thank all of the businesses and all the partners that participated in that, all of the district staff and personnel who were there who helped put it on. It was a really good event. It was a beautiful day. But the money that is raised by that goes for STARS Reading, which is a special summer school program for children in kindergarten, first, second grade, who need just a little extra help in the summertime. And that has been a very, very powerful, effective program. So we are so grateful to all of our partners for participating and helping raise money for that.
Now I'll go. We had a budget committee meeting last week, and was that last week? Yeah. Sorry, all the days are running together. And I just wanted to thank our business services team, because I don't think they've ever had board members ask this many questions in their whole careers. And I appreciate the patience with which they answer some of the questions that we ask, because I know before I was elected to the board, I thought I had a pretty good handle on district finance after sitting through a lot of board meetings for a long time. But the complexities of how the finances in the district work and how the money comes to us and what it can and can't be spent on, and then we get some other funding stream that is restricted to a certain use, and you got to figure out what can go where, and it's so complicated. And I appreciate the thoroughness and the, like I said, sometimes patience needed to explain that to us, and to make sure that we have a good understanding of it, so that when we are voting on financial issues or when we are making policies or whatever, that we are able to do that in such a way that we are maximizing the dollars that we spend in pursuit of good things for kids all through the district. And that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort from our business services team. And I think our last agenda, I think we had like 10 data sets that they pulled for us because we wanted to look at different things and understand, where things were going and where things were sitting. So I just wanted to give some appreciation to our whole business services team for all that time that they spend and for helping us to have a good handle on all of that. So Rob, please take that thank you to your team and tell them how much we appreciate them.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about the legislative committee. I think historically, tell me if this is a correct statement, most of the work has been done within our own state legislature. And we have looked at expanding that to the federal landscape because there are some very specific revenue streams. One thing just that has been frustrating to me over the years is that if you don't have, it feels like, I will just say that, my perception is, if you don't have somebody directly connected to your state on a committee that matters to education, it is really difficult to get things done. And so when Congressman McAdams was in, he was really great and supportive as we look to reauthorize the Child Nutrition Act, which I didn't think it would be hard to get people behind feeding kids, but it's hard. Like, plot twist, it's hard. And so we've not had anyone on the Agriculture Committee, which is where kind of this flows through. But we have Congressman Owens now, who is, I believe, the chair of the Education Committee. And so I just wanted to say we look forward. We met with him a month ago? I don't even know. Lost all track of time. And we are excited, hopefully in November, I've invited him for the whole day. So we are looking forward to welcoming him here and kind of to give him just a snapshot of what goes on in our district and what the needs really are, because we do service the most students in the state. So I'm excited for the upcoming session. Some of us would really like to stay where we are. And I think be committed to explaining a little more of the things that go on, because there are a lot of meetings and a lot of things, and it can be overwhelming quickly. So I don't think we talk about that enough, that those relationships and meetings are ongoing all year, that they're happening. And I will commit to doing a better job, but we're excited for that to happen.
Go ahead. Ada.
This is not a committee report, but I just wanted to acknowledge those of you that have addressed us publicly and through emails about the vaping litigation, and just wanted to let you know that because it is litigation, it's something that we discuss in closed session, but that we are listening to you and will respond. And no promises, but it will be discussed. Thank you.
Any other reports? Not sure that was a yes or a...
Yes, please,
Okay,
sir,
go ahead,
President
sis.
Clement. By way of information, and this is like sharing is caring, so tell your friends. So next week on October 7th at 5:30, there is a town hall with Congressman Curtis, who's one of the loveliest humans I know in terms of being responsive, and it's at the Alpine Learning Center over by the old Walmart. Nope, Ace Hardware. Jack and Jill's Bowling by the Media Center. From where?
It's immediately east of Jack and Jill's Bowling, basically.
Next to the brown cow that's usually standing on the side of the road.
Where the Focus Center is. I mean, if you don't know, we'll give you an address and you can Google it, map yourself there. But he is a lovely human and very responsive, and I would love to show some support.
It's like
Absolutely.
southeast of Jack and Jill's. Sorry, I should say that.
It's on October 7th, 5:30 p.m. And if you wait when we've adjourned, I'm happy to Google that for you and give you the actual address. Not in an open.
If you know where ATEC is, it's right by ATEC.
759 East Pacific Drive. and we're all going to go home and tell 5 friends, right?
Any other reports? Okay, we have need of a closed session to discuss personnel, property, collective bargaining, and litigation. It will be held in the superintendent's conference room. We learned at our Leadership Academy that we need to tell you exactly where the location is, and we need to have a roll call vote on this. Do I hear a motion to move into closed session?
I move that we go into closed session. Sorry, I was moving that we were moving and then it threw me for a second. I move that we adjourn to closed session for
Those
property, litigation, and personnel purposes.
We have a motion by Amber, a second by Stacy. Any discussion? We'll now have a vote, and we're going to go one by one. So,
Yay.
Amber, yay?
Yay.
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 Yes.
Yay.
Okay, the motion passes. We are now moving into closed session in the superintendent's conference room. Did I do okay on that?